Hey everyone, welcome to another OSR tabletop live stream with myself, Richard Bloodworth Salati, and today I am joined by Ron. Is it Meischker? I hope I'm pronouncing it right.
Yeah, Meischker's correct. Yep.
Meischker is correct. All right, so great. So this is Ron, and Ron is the organizer for the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, which had its premiere season, I'll call it, last January. So not too long ago actually, and it was an incredible experience. I was overjoyed to be there for, unfortunately, the one day that I was actually there because we had a snowstorm, back at home, and I had to flee, to go shovel snow. But it was a phenomenal experience from a first time convention goer to Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, and I mean, it was just a great time, and really quite incredible. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself first, and then I'm going to put up a little banner here. So, and I'll have like some questions on these banners, and we'll let the audience chime in too if they wish, and ask you some questions as well. So, you have the floor, Ron.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate you having me on here and the kind words about the convention last year. Last year was our inaugural event.
Mm-hmm.
We went in, pretty no frills.
Mm-hmm.
We rented a section of a convention center and part of a hotel. And we had put out the call early on. We started organizing it in 2022. At the end of 2022, and we put out the call early for guests and the old grognards, so to speak, because we run a lot of retro system games at the convention, and thankfully that community answered that call. We had 1,140 attendees our first year,
Mm-hmm.
and some great guests. Including Frank Menser, Jeff D, and Matt Ballant, Steve Marsh, Professor Dungeon Master, Runehammer. So the guests went from folks who were with TSR in the 70s up through today's content creators, we'll call them, through YouTube and things like that. And 2025 is looks much bigger. We sold out our vendor space, which has about 50 available spaces, 11 months in advance, and we have quite a few guests coming out this year. In addition to the folks I just mentioned, we've got Ken St. Andre, the Tunnels and Trolls creator. Just about everybody who's a content creator out there and running YouTube channels, whether it be Bob World Builder, Ben Milton. We've got authors, like Ben Riggs coming out. So we're very happy with the way it's going this year. We're already up over 200 events, and we're still 7 months away, so it should be a good time for all involved.
Yeah, I really do. I'm anticipating it. I'm so excited to go. I will say that page one was by no stretch of the imagination small. It was like, that really seemed to be. Now I know you said that you started planning it well ahead of time. So that
Correct.
must have been key number one. But it was a large venue for a first year convention, and you had a hotel block, as well. So and it was really quite a large space for, and I'm sure just like a kind of, it was a risky endeavor, going the first time. Have you ever done like even smaller conventions or anything leading up to this, or this was just a, first shot, straight for the deep end of the pool?
No, this wasn't my first rodeo.
Right.
However, it was my first rodeo, you know, running a game convention in a quarter of a century.
Right.
I ran conventions in the '90s in New Jersey. They were mid-sized conventions,
Okay.
600-700 people. They were well attended. They were, for that time period. But it's a different world now. Running a game convention in 1996, you had to beg and plead with game store owners to put up your your posters, and
Hmm.
they were very defensive about their customer base. They didn't want their customer base going to conventions because they felt like they would buy things from other vendors at the convention if they weren't vendors, and they didn't want to expose their customers to that. Now, conversely, I used to make the argument that, hey, your customers are going to learn different systems and see different things there, which they're going to come back to your game store and want to buy.
Right.
Even if they bought a core book somewhere, they're going to want to buy all the rest of the stuff from you. But it was a different world.
Yeah.
In 2024, people can buy things wherever they want.
Right.
Everything's at their fingertips, whether it's through Amazon, eBay, other online vendors. And the local game stores have wisened up to that, so they're a lot more friendly and supportive of these kind
Right.
of endeavors. We had great support from local game stores as far west as what's going on? Richard disappeared.
Well, I'm still
Yeah,
here.
yeah, you disappeared for a moment on my
Oh,
screen.
oh, that's
Um, the little swirly icon came up.
oh.
Um, we had great support from stores as far west as Pittsburgh,
Hmm.
as far south as Virginia, and as far north as like Buffalo, New York. We're putting up posters, and it was the same thing. Same thing this year. In fact, I stopped at a local game store called Greg's Games in Hamilton, New Jersey,
Hmm.
and dropped off a poster to them today. And so it's great to see that. But the game, the traveling group of convention goers that are into collecting and things like that, they heeded the call. They came. The local gamers, who are in the Philadelphia region, they heeded the call. They came out, and we had a great gaming crowd out last year as well. So it was good, but it was definitely a learning curve for me, because basically everything you do is online promotion, and I kind of doubled down on that by doing the guerrilla marketing at the different local game stores and things like that.
Yeah. So the first comment, he wandered in, pretending he's been here the whole time. Good to see you again, Flint. Actually, I was going to say, and I won't say this for afterwards, but if you have any posters, like as many as like 5 posters or whatever you want to send me, I have at least 3 places I can post them in here in New York, and I'll see what else there is around. We don't have that many stores anymore. They're all kind of shut down, so there's only like one place right in my town that's that's mostly Magic the Gathering and card and everything, but they do have some role playing stuff. And then there's 2 comic book stores by me. One's fairly large, and the other one's kind of small, but it's been around forever. And then I think we have a Hudson Valley Comic Con coming up, which is small. It's held at Gold's Gym. But I'll certainly look to see if I can bring one over to there as well. And post it in the window or whatever. But if you do have posters that you want to send out to me, like I said, not too many because I don't have that many stores around me.
Right.
But I'll certainly gladly post those.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that. The only thing I ask is when they get put up, you take a picture of the front of the store.
Sure.
Take a picture of the owner or manager holding the poster, or once the poster's on the wall, and take a couple interior shots of the store. because we do have a section in our on-site book for our supporting retailers, and we push out posts for them on social media and the email blast for them, because we're asking for something. We're asking them to give up an 11-inch by 17-inch section of wall, and in return for that, we want to promote people visiting their favorite local game stores. So we have that supporting retailers section. So that it's got to go. It's got to be good for both. Both parties.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that would be great. I wouldn't mind doing that at all, and hopefully we can get some people from my local area to go down as well. So as many as I can recruit to go down, that would be great.
Sure. Okay.
All right. So I threw up. I just was thinking of some kind of questions that I think my audience would either want to hear or I'm just curious about. So, how was page 2 different in preparation? I mean, you kind of already touched upon this. How is it going to be a different experience for us who were at page 1?
Well, there's a few things that are different this year. One, we have a Thursday night time slot for gold badge holders, which is our top badge level. Last year the Thursday activities were our staff and the guests, the special guests. There was a cheesesteak dinner for the staff and the special guests only. That was my way to take our volunteers and staff, put them together with the special industry guests, and let them interact before the convention really kicked off. I thought that was the least we could do for our volunteers, and we're going to do that again this year. But then at 8 p.m. to midnight at the Hilton Garden Inn, we're going to have a time slot, and many of the special guests are going to be running pickup games there, and the gold badge holders will be able to interact with them directly. So we have quite a bit going on Thursday. For the rest of the convention, we have 2 seminar areas and presentation areas this year, where we had 1 last year. I suspect we're going to have 2 seminars going almost at all times.
Right.
So that'll be different. The number of content creators is much higher this year.
Right.
So, last year, one of the great things is that every special guest was extremely accessible for the people who attended the convention. We expect nothing but the same this year. So, but there will be constant programming going on other than just gaming through seminars. So people will be able to sit down with, even your special guest this year. People will be able to sit down and talk to you or interact with you both informally and formally during the convention. That's not necessarily different than last year, but there were close to 40 guests this year, so I think we're going to be in very good shape there. Another change from last year, our charity auction was huge. We took in close to $100,000 at the charity auction this year, and not all of it goes to the charity. Some of it goes to the people who put the things in the auction. Right. And then, they give up 10% of that, of the sale proceeds. They go back to the charity. But we will be streaming the auction this year, and you'll be able to bid from home if you can't make it to the convention. Oh, cool. And we had quite a few collectibles in the auction last year. I mean, Dragon Magazine #1, wood grain D&D, third print original box set. First printings of the Dungeon Master Guide and the Player's Handbook. Right. First printing of the DMG. So we had quite a few collectible things. Dragon Magazine #1, Dungeon Magazine #1. So that'll be different. And the other item that'll be different is much of it will be streaming this year. All the seminars will be streaming.
Mhm.
We're working with Avenue Studios, who's also New York based. We'll be working with them and to get things streamed out there. Select games will be streamed. I know some of the other content creators will be basically putting on their shows live from the convention. So that'll be different this year. Also different this year. The hotel number one's already sold out.
Yeah.
So we had to go to a second hotel. And there's no doubt in my mind I'm going to have to get a third hotel based on the way the room nights are selling out. But what we try to focus on is the fun of gaming, and by presenting a lot of games that you can pre-register for, which is a little different than some of today's larger conventions are doing. If you take like a PAX or something like that, they have tons of vendors and they have tons of gaming, but it's all like free-form open gaming or kind of a scrum to get into a game. We strive to present, this is our schedule. Tickets for individual games go on sale this date. And sign up so you know what you're getting into at the convention. Right. You know what to expect. And we're going to have over 200 options for people this year, so I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, sounds awesome. Here's a quick question for you, and this is most likely for the future, I would assume. So is there any online component to the con? Might be in the future. So I think it's essentially talking about like a virtual con experience attached to Page.
Yeah, we're working on something like that specifically. We've had a few GMs approach us to ask if they can run virtual games. I'm an old guy, so the virtual stuff, figuring out how to integrate all these things like the online aspect of the auction and streaming the seminars out and possibly streaming certain games out. That's certainly in the cards because we're already working on that. As far as running online games for the convention itself, I would say 85% likely to have a small component where people can jump on board from home.
Yeah.
And play. We just haven't gotten there yet to exactly how we're gonna pull that component off. Right. And I certainly want to make sure that I feel comfortable with the interface and making sure that we have the bandwidth at the convention to do all that, because once a convention starts, I don't want to say it's chaos, but it's like a wave that carries me around all weekend. Right. Yeah. I don't really have control of it, at that point. But I would say 85% likely we'll have some online options for people to get into games. But at a minimum, the seminars, the panel discussions, and the auction will be streamed live.
Cool. And that's a big plus, because even for us, when we're there in person, you can't catch it all, at the same time. So it'll be great to come back, home after the 3-day and be like, all right, I'm going to settle in. I'm going to watch some of the stuff that I might have missed, myself. And, so that'll be, a good way to, just either revive my memory from, all of it, because I mean, nowhere's near the level of the chaos that you're probably facing, having organized the whole thing and making sure it runs through. Sorry. My asthma kicked in. But certainly I know just from being at a convention and running games, it's hectic just from that standpoint as well. And you kind of miss some of the stuff that's going on around you as well. So yeah, that'll be great to be able to capture some of it after after the con as well.
I should mention, I just thought of something as you were talking. We do have a social media coordinator who's been helping us out with some of the newer platforms, I'm going to call them. As an old guy, things like TikTok are foreign to me. So we've got somebody in charge of that. But part of her role is going to be making sure that the event is well covered on social media, like little bursts of live streams, many photos. She'll be present all weekend, so we want to make sure that we have a good not that we didn't have pictures last year, we had tons of pictures,
Right.
but we want to make sure that those memories are preserved as well, to the point where we've dedicated a person to actually do that. Also new for this year, we have little Philly cheesesteak mimic miniatures.
Right.
We've got Philly cheesesteak. We also have these pins.
Awesome.
That we're going to have available for this year. They come free with a gold badge, but they'll be available for purchase. And I'll announce it here. I'm not going to show a sample yet, but we're going to have a convention-specific dice set.
Oh, nice.
That has a convention branded logo dice bag that comes with it.
Right.
And I feel pretty good about that. I've seen the samples of the dice. I like them. They're retro dice. They're a little larger than normal RPG dice, and the dice bag looks great. And since it's Philadelphia, we're going to switch up the color every year to match one of the Philadelphia sports teams, or perhaps in the future a patriotic theme.
Right.
But this year it's going to be the dice are going to be a midnight green, and these are old school dice. So you use a crown to fill in the numbers. The crown will be like a gray or silver, and the dice bag is midnight green with a silver embroidery with the convention logo on it, and of course those colors match the Philadelphia Eagles.
Right.
Each year there will be a different set of dice, different dice bag, and we're pretty happy to be working with our partner Black Oak Workshop on that dice set.
Sounds good. Sounds really good. I will mention, unless you were going to mention it soon, but one of the new things I think this year is that your Facebook group for the Philadelphia, Game Expo is. So I forget if there was one last year, but this year it's much more active, and you have a Discord server now, which I think is new.
Yeah, we didn't have a Facebook group. What we had an event page, and we had a convention page. We still have the convention page on Facebook. It's got like 2,800 people who like it, and 3,200 people who follow it. And we had an event page which was pretty active. But unfortunately, COVID struck down some of our staff people last year. So some of them were bummed out they couldn't come to the convention, so they were asking what they could do to help on the event page. So we had them approving posts as they went up there, because spamming's so prevalent on Facebook. So they were approving posts, and somehow, some way, in the middle of Saturday, somebody went to go delete a post, but they deleted the page.
Oh boy.
So the page disappeared. So we immediately created an event page, which there's only one administrator to. So that page is pretty active. It's got like 1,100 followers, and it's only a couple months old. And then we have the Discord channel, which we launched. Good grief, maybe a couple days ago, over the weekend,
Yeah.
Friday. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
It's
Very
already,
soon. Yeah. Very recently.
yeah, it's teeming with activity already. And that was like a newer platform for me. I
Right.
know it's been around for a while, but like I said, I'm old, and I was comfortable with what I was comfortable with. But now we have the Discord channel, and I'm realizing people are getting back to us in real time with
Right.
questions and comments, which is great. We're able to react to them much quicker, and I'm pretty pleased with the way that's going so far.
Yeah. A lot of people, by the way, run their games through Discord. So that's another thing that's semi possible.
Yeah. I've
Um,
I've only ever played through Discord, and we only used it as like the voice and video
yeah.
component in conjunction
That's
with Roll20.
right.
But as far as it, as far as it being like a forum, like an old
Mhm.
school kind of, you've got your channels. That's like
Right.
the parent forum to me, and old
Mhm.
guy speak. I think that's great, and we're going to look to do something. Probably on maybe Friday nights. I'm not sure when we're going to do it, but we're going to have some updates that come out periodically from the convention, where we're going to chat about a subject or highlight a certain event or highlight a guest. It's something we're going to do as the year progresses. Here, we're going to work on that.
Well, sounds good. Well, here's a really important question. Can I get a bag if I'm a Giants fan? No, you cannot get. You shouldn't
Listen,
want to bag if you're a Giants fan.
well, listen. Why can't you get to Philly if you're a Giants fan? I mean, you could drive down. I mean, plenty of Giants fans drive down to sit in a parking lot and listen to the
Yeah.
Giants lose. As the Eagles fans are cheering. I mean, that's pretty common, isn't it?
I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've been to a game.
It's been a while since the Giants have been relevant, so that's okay.
Yeah, I know. It's
Flint's sorry he brought that up.
yeah. I still, I have my 4 rings that I can look to. That's what counts. So let's see. I live in Alabama now. Yeah, so you shouldn't worry if you're in Alabama. We don't have a team, I guess. So
Listen, you
I
can
guess the closest to you is Florida, right? Or maybe the Carolinas. I'm
that's
not
where
quite sure.
that's where Black Oak Workshop's out of. They're out of Alabama.
Oof.
So you might be able to buy one locally. You could buy like a black market Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo dice bag and set of dice.
All right, so let's see. Here's a question I thought of. So, where does the badge sales, vendor spaces? You already said you're full on vendor spaces. When is game submissions going to end, and when can people with badges start signing up for games?
Yeah, the gold badge holders will be able to begin selecting games probably in late July.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna continue to have game submissions open through then, and then we'll do select, game editions after that time. Meaning, if somebody brings something really special to the table, we'll put it on the schedule. Badge sales, we're almost sold out of gold badges. We only made 100 available, so if people want to get a gold badge, they should go to phillygamingexpo.com and grab that soon. Gold badges come with a free T-shirt. They come with a Philly cheesesteak miniature. They come with the pin. You get to select your games first. You get access to that Thursday night time slot. So that's a great value for what you get. And the first day we opened up badge sales on May 1st, they crashed. Tabletop events server for a little bit because there was a crush of people who tried to get in, but we're up in the the 250 range right now,
Hmm.
which we're pretty happy with. I mean, compared to last year, that's like 25 times the number of badges we sold in week one.
Right.
For year one, and we're the badge sales are going to go like this. They're going to be high, and then they're going to kind of drop off for a little bit, and then they're going to jump again as we get closer to the convention.
Yeah.
Our thought is we're going to get at least 1,500 people this year, which it's almost a given at this point.
Right.
So last year I thought I was going to get 500 people at the convention, and we got 1,140. So who knows? And the day walk-ins last year, the day passes of people didn't bother to pre-register. I mean, it was a large number of people. I mean, we had over 100 walk-ins on Sunday morning, which was it's phenomenal. It was just
Right.
unexpected.
That was stragglers from the dance competition that was going on in the other annex next door.
Yeah, well, you know what? That'll be next door again this year. That
Yeah.
venue, at least, it's not necessarily going to be the dance competition, but that next door will be our venue in 2026. We're going to make the jump to that larger area.
Uh-huh.
And we thought about it for this year, and it's approximately 4 times the cost to the convention.
Wow.
And after thinking about it, I said, you know what, we can go another year over where we're at.
Right.
We had room. We had a little room to grow, but I think based on the feedback we're getting and the enthusiasm online, and some of the guests that have popped out of the woodwork, and it's funny, guests are approaching us to come, which I think, but it's certainly gaining notoriety nationally amongst the gaming crowd.
Yes.
And as that continues to grow, we'll we're gonna have to expand into a bigger space. And
Yeah.
this year we utilized the gaming space we had over at the Hilton Garden Inn, but there was a lot more we could do with that.
Right.
And I suspect we're going to have to this year.
Mm-hmm.
So while you don't want to have a split venue like that, because they're so close together, and because there's shuttle service constantly rotating between the convention center and the hotel, which is like an eighth of a mile away.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna be utilizing that space a little bit more than we did last year.
Yeah. No, I was surprised at how easily accessible the venue was from the hotel, and even though they say it's within walking distance, it's like not for somebody my age, and then with my condition, and then the fact that it was wintertime, and not quite sure what it was going to be, but it was literally not even 2 minutes by car. I mean, it was just a little loop around, and you were right at the venue. So and there's tons and tons of parking at the venue that there's no, even if you're not at that annex, it's a simple, there's probably about 3,000 parking spaces all around that.
Yeah, there's ample free parking throughout. There's plenty of restaurants in the area around it. We picked that facility specifically to grow with the Greater Philadelphia Convention Center. As the convention grows, they have the ability to host us. And frankly, there aren't a great deal of hotels or convention centers in the region that could handle, if we brought in 2,000 people, it's not like it's a boat show where the people come for 2 hours and then they leave.
Right.
These are weekend visitors.
Yes.
And they're sticking around, so it's a consistent number. And you get some peaks where you have the 1-day passes come in to play board games or whatever, but we have to be cognizant of, this is where we're going to be. This is where we're going to be for the next few years. And if we outgrow that center, which hopefully won't happen because, we could go up to 300,000 square feet there. If we outgrow that center, it's a good problem that we'll have.
Yeah. Yeah. And then now you're up to the truly huge cons and, become like a regional con that people, that people go to, almost the equivalent of like a PAX East or there really isn't that many like really, really big cons on the East Coast. So that's the other, thing that you're kind of filling in that nice area of need, because there's a lot of smaller cons popping up. I talk about them on my channel. I've actually been attending them and everything. There are finally some smaller cons popping up. Yours just leapfrogged to, what I would actually consider greater than medium. At 1,100, I consider 600 to be a medium size. So 1,100 for your first year is, like I said, phenomenal number. And if you're looking at 1,500 to 1,700 this upcoming, you're approaching big con size, at least in my opinion.
Now, listen, that's the goal. The goal is to have the gaming up front, to make sure we have plenty of scheduled events and, really like the old days, right? You used to get that convention book in the mail and you cut the back page out and you fill in the games you'd want to run and send it back with your check. Obviously we're, he's got a little asthma that's kicking up with all the pollen, so we're going to let him gather himself.
Thanks. No, you could have kept on talking. I muted, so you don't have to hear me dying on the thing.
Yeah. But, listen, I didn't want to be like the WWF and the show goes on after Bret Hart falls off the ramp or after Owen Hart falls out of the ramp.
That. Yeah, it was Owen Hart. Yeah.
But but yeah, I mean, we want it to be a convention for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we put out there, and I really mean this when I say it. So many of these larger conventions, they're so steeped in history, or they're run by a big corporation, or their staffs are well set over the years. There's a real opportunity with this convention for people to put their own fingerprint on it, and it to be everybody's con, right? It'd be everybody's convention out there, and that's our goal. That's our goal. The focus is on role-playing games at this convention. We have a pretty nice board game library, and we have a nice miniatures track. We're not shooting to fill the venue with a massive Magic the Gathering tournament or anything like that. It's not our area of focus. And but as far as RPGs, board games, miniatures go, hey, we're open to every idea. We're open to what people want to be involved in, and I think it was indicative of how the turnout was last year.
Right.
People did take it to heart. They supported the convention. We had people from 27 different states at the convention last year.
Wow.
I mean, that just blew my mind when I went through it. I mean, that's incredible, and we're going to top that this year.
Yeah.
We've got great support out of the Midwest and the North Central states. The folks who came in from Wisconsin and Illinois and they ran games is great. It was wonderful, and I'm looking forward to this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody who attends and spending time with them.
Yeah, no, it's the same here, and I think a lot of it has to do with Philadelphia is a draw city. It has that mystique to it. It has that nostalgia to it. It is, when you think of, East Coast cities, I mean, obviously you have New York, but, Boston, Philadelphia. Philadelphia is right in there in the mix. People travel to Philadelphia for a variety of reasons, and it's not just the revolutionary history of it, but you have, you also have, Philly cheesesteak. Everybody knows Philadelphia cheesesteaks, and and it's just a well-centered place, right? So, and it's very easy to get there from north, south, and from the west. There's a little bit of the East Coast left in there too, but
it's interesting. Earlier, you said there really isn't a big East Coast convention,
mm,
and it really hasn't been over the years when you think about it. I mean, Origins used to run in the Baltimore region, and something called Atlantic Con used to run in the Baltimore region, and of course down south you've got Dragon Con, right, in
right,
Atlanta. But one of the reasons traditionally that you haven't seen the big conventions on the East Coast, in New Jersey, you've always had plenty of little conventions.
right,
There's no sea people coming from the sea to the east to come to your convention, right?
right,
The further, towards Pittsburgh or Ohio or Indiana, wherever, as you get people coming from all directions.
right,
When you're on the coast, everybody's coming from the west at that point.
right,
But I think Philadelphia is good. I work in Philadelphia every day. I live close to Philadelphia, on the New Jersey side of the river. But the one thing Philadelphia has going for it geographically, as far as gaming goes, is that it's a very historically rich area when it comes to gamers. You've had good game stores in the areas over the years. You've had these other conventions that have taken place around the region. You've got Maryland right to the south, where it's a very fertile ground for gamers, and so it can draw from those regions. But
right,
without a doubt, when I was thinking about this convention, which really spawned from me running the RPG collector discussion and barter group on Facebook, I thought about venues like Pittsburgh. I thought about venues like Cleveland. Said, where do we want to be? What's going to work the best? And at the end of the day, I said, well, I felt like I had to be in the community where I'm running the convention.
mm-hmm.
And I asked plenty of vendors, plenty of guests, plenty of game masters to go on a leap of faith to come out to the first year convention last year and donate their time to come, take a chance, be a building block of the convention. And folks answered that call, and I don't think anybody was disappointed in doing so, because it seems like everybody's back this year. So, we just have to continue to keep an eye on that and make it a convention that's affordable for people and has plenty to do, plenty of games to play, plenty of guests to meet. And the guests being accessible, that's really important. And it's a discussion I've had with all of the guests, like, hey, there's no green room here. You get like a little lounge, but the guests are, the gamers are right there. So if that makes you uncomfortable, maybe not the best venue for you, right? But everybody seems open to it and is ready to go.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to, meeting even more of those, individuals, that are just not the special guests, but, people that are actually going there, like I always run games. You know, when I go to a convention, I'm always running at least,
Yeah.
at least one game per day. Sometimes too many. 5 is too many per weekend. But I just love having players come to my table, and meeting new people, and even more so when they've come from other conventions that I've had them at my table, or I've been at their table, and having them come back again together. It's there's a connection that's starting to form between several different conventions. And this kind of, I consider everything within a 4-hour radius of
Mhm.
me. That's like kind of my area, and so
Right.
I'm coming across people from from multiple different states, just like you said, going to the same convention. So hopefully that network keeps on developing between the Pennsylvania, the New York, the Massachusetts, which there's quite a few in Massachusetts now, and hopefully that really kind of meshes together and becomes a regional block of gaming.
Yeah. And years ago, in fact, I was just talking to somebody from TotalCon about this a few weeks ago.
Hmm.
Years ago, that was considered, what you just described was considered one region for gaming.
Yeah.
And there used to be something called the Northeast Convention Coordinators Committee. So it was
Mhm.
NECCC. And, convention coordinators in the 90s used to get together twice a year, usually in Connecticut, and we'd have like a breakfast on a Sunday morning, and we would lay out the schedule for the following year, because we were all like, we realized that rising tides lift all ships, right?
Correct.
So we would get together and make sure nobody was too close to anybody else. And
Mhm.
at that time, you needed mailing lists. You needed to know who was going to the convention so you
Yeah.
could send out to them. And
Mhm.
there were a few things you had to do, and there was sharing of mailing lists, and there was great camaraderie. And what I saw just on our first year at Page, and looks like it's going to continue in the future years. You kind of get like a family feel amongst the people that are heavily involved with the convention. Not necessarily staff, but maybe a player who goes and he plays 8 time slots, or she plays 8 time slots, or somebody like yourself who's coming to run games every year. Um, that that sense of family comes into
Mhm.
play. That sense of community comes into play, and that's really important. And I know you've noticed it seems to have simmered down a little bit, but for a while during COVID, man, the gaming community was really attacking one another. I mean, it was,
Mhm.
in terms of, edition wars, and, the old guys are gatekeepers,
Mhm.
whether the hobby's inclusive enough, and all that noise that was going on during that time, uh, while everybody was kind of nesting and stuck at home.
Right.
uh, there was too much of that going on. And, it's one of the reasons that, I wanted to run this convention, because to me, somebody's politics, their, you know, lifestyle choices, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
it's not relevant when you sit down at a game table.
That's absolutely true.
The alignment that
Mhm.
we all share is the joy of playing these games.
Mhm.
You know, and I wanted to focus on that.
Mhm.
I wanted to focus on the idea of tolerance. You hear tolerance, tolerance, tolerance. Well, tolerance is a two-way street.
Mhm.
We all have to be tolerant of anybody who's different than us, or has different beliefs than us, and it goes both ways, right?
Yeah.
So, we were very upfront in our policies, or our convention code of conduct. Like, I wish I could have just put it out there, like, hey, be nice, treat people the way you want to be treated, and don't be a dickhead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just enjoy the games. But
Yeah.
we have to be a little more formal with it. But my goal is, hey, don't worry about all that other stuff. Don't worry about the person has a
Yeah.
political figure T-shirt. Maybe you don't like that political figure. Don't worry about that. It doesn't prohibit you from having fun at the table for a
Right.
4-hour, 3-hour period. Be tolerant and get through it,
Yeah.
and be nice, be
Yeah.
patient. Be nice, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of my goal, because I just
Yeah.
would just shake my head when I would read some of the stuff online and go, why are people acting like this? They're just, they're eating their own. They're
Oh yeah.
attacking
Yeah.
their own community, and there's no need for that.
Yeah.
And I was very happy with the way Paige turned out last year. I mean, one of my proudest moments from Paige actually occurred on Thursday night. When we had our staff / volunteer and special guest dinner. Frank Mentzer, he's in his 70s, been around forever, with
Right.
TSR and everything else. Him sitting at a table with students from the Rowan University gaming club.
Right.
They don't know who Frank Mentzer is. Maybe one of them did. Maybe one of them knew who he was before the convention.
Right.
Because she was a Grognard's child. She was Grognard offspring, as I like to call her.
She's second generation Grognard. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I was watching, and those young people were fascinated by what he had to say about gaming, and he had them enthralled with the discussion. And that to me was one of my proudest moments, because I'm like, okay, I just accomplished a small mission, which was to say, hey, this is all the same thing, whether you played 5th edition or whether you never moved on from 1st edition and have played that the last 40 years. Right. Gaming is role-playing games are role-playing games at their core, and we can all enjoy, no matter what that system is, or what what our generation is. We can all enjoy it together, and we got to do that last year.
Yeah, I'm going to share a little story with Frank's game, because I'll admit I went there to meet Frank Metzner. I've been speaking to him for years on Facebook and everything. Followed him when he had his Kickstarter, and conversed with him there. Over that and such. And so when I got there, I actually spent, when you were talking about them being accessible, I sat with Frank for an hour and a half, just I and one other person at a table waiting for his first panel to sit on. And then I was going to game with him later on. But his game, and I'm getting to that point now, his game there were 16 players. He had 5 of us. He had 5 of us, or 6 of us, sitting around the table, and we were the first round, and everybody else was hanging in the wings. And the way Frank's system, as far as I can tell, was that if you failed any roll, your character was dead. All right, and then you picked up and you stepped aside, and a new person sat in, fully knowing that one bad roll and your character's dead. And these were all young players. And when I say young, I mean certainly younger than me. I'm 57, so certainly younger than me. And many of them were certainly in their early 30s or even 20s.
Yeah.
And they just kept on. They were so anxious to get in there, to last as long as they could. And the one die roll that they knew, oh, I just failed my saving throw. What happened? You're dead. All right. And just picked up and stepped aside, smile on their face and everything. Just a total different perception than what you would usually get from the internet when you're dealing with modern gamers, right? That, they're not used to a system where it's, do or die with every dice roll. And I mean, they just absolutely ate it up. They loved it. All right. And, Frank, there were 16 of us and only 5 survived. And, and it was like, if you put this out on Twitter, that this was the death ratio, it would get torn apart on Twitter. They would be like, "Oh, that's a terrible game experience because it's the DM versus the players," and that certainly wasn't at all what was taking place. But it's only in a convention setting where you're going to have that kind of experience, and it's going to open your eyes to, this is what really old school, gaming was like. Because traditional Dungeons and Dragons was all tournament play. I mean, that's where they all, cut their teeth on. And tournament play is it is very much, the DM versus the players kind of situation, because you were meant to die in a tournament game.
Mm-hmm.
And you were scored based on how long you lasted.
Yeah, I think you really touched on something there with Frank. Frank ran into his share of trouble a few years ago and was basically canceled from the hobby, right? And I'm not going to really get into the details of what somebody said he did or didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that he was tried without a trial, and it was a shame, and it was a shame, and there's somebody who's dedicated his life to gaming, who's always been accessible online if you wanted to talk to him. And when I made the decision with Frank being from Delaware County, Pennsylvania, which is one of the suburbs of Philadelphia,
right?
I made the decision we were going to invite Frank as a guest. I got a little pushback from some people, and I said no. I don't think he's banned for life from the hobby. I think people judged him harshly, and if you look back at that situation now and who the other
I know the full story. Yeah, I was there at the time. I know the whole story.
Yeah, so I mean, that person went on to make multiple accusations, basically, to other people as well.
Yeah.
And nobody ever came back to Frank and go, you know what, maybe we treated Frank harshly. Some other people in the industry, convention organizers, made it a big deal to, use Frank's name to, take shots at him or whatever else. Like, I'm disinviting him from the convention. Well, okay, you just made this situation about you and your convention,
exactly,
and not about Frank or the so-called victim or accuser. You've taken it out of where it should be, and you've made it about you. No, I didn't do that. I thought Frank should be there. He's a good guy. He invested a lot of his life in the hobby. And let me tell you, I mean, and you were there, Frank was accessible to everybody at all times.
Yep.
He was, my wife's in the kitchen talking about how awesome he was at the convention. He did a phenomenal job of being an ambassador, not only for TSR at that convention, not only for Dungeons and Dragons, but for himself and for the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo.
Yes.
I've known Frank for several decades, and he was the same guy he was 25 years ago when I dealt with him. And you know what? I wasn't sorry for 1 millisecond that we stood tall and said, no, Frank Mentzer's coming to this convention. He's from the Philadelphia area. This is a Philadelphia area convention. We're doing this. You know what? It would have been a huge mistake for me to cave to the little bit of pressure we got at the beginning.
Right.
I mean, I actually had one couple, I'm going to call from Philadelphia. They have a small game company, who told me we were going to be ripped to shreds. I was going to be personally ripped to shreds by gaming influencers once they found out Frank Menser was coming to the convention.
I didn't see any of that. Yep, I didn't see any of that.
No, and you know what? When we put out the initial thing, he was our first announced guest at page one. The feedback was 100% positive. There wasn't one person who came forward after the announcement and said, "Hey, I'm a little 100% positive." And you know what? He repaid that little bit of faith by expending every bit of energy he had at the convention. I mean, he was really exhausted at the end of it. But he expended every bit of energy he had to make himself accessible. And I'll tell you, I couldn't be happier that Heidi Gygax is bringing Frank in as a guest for her EggCon or EGGCon in June. I'm so happy that somebody from the Gygax family stepped up and said, "Hey, Frank's a part of the history of the game. We're bringing him to our convention." I'm so happy she did that, because he deserves that, and he deserves it across the board. And quick segue: Heidi Gygax is a guest at
page 2, right? So, and I think it's only a matter of time before that bridge is mended, or that's sorted out and everything, because
there's one person in this hobby, one person who can fix that problem like that, by saying, "You know what, Frank's right up the street. I'm going to have him as a guest at my Wisconsin convention." There's one guy who can fix that instead of digging his heels in.
Yeah, no, I know,
and he he should step up and do that. It's time to bring the gaming community together. And I'll bring up another name, the fact that Jeff Leeson has been iced out. He's got to get a badge to go to a convention up the road from his house. I mean, there's a guy who, early days of TSR, wrote a lot of the Mayfair, wrote a lot of the Mayfair Roll-Aid stuff, especially the Invincible Overlord games. Co-authored, Hidden Shrine of Tomacon with Harold Johnson, and he's buying a badge because I don't know.
It's at this point, because of the way, and I'm not a big fan of the way that Wizards of the Coast treats the TSR era leaders and whatnot. So I'm not at all a big fan of them. And so for those people who I consider to be, the legendary founders of the hobby, whether it was, from 1974, really all the way through the early 80s and everything, any of those individuals that are still around, they should all be, allowed and brought in and, received as special guests, regardless of any other personal faux pas or obviously anything short of criminality, but anything short of that. I mean, they should be brought in, and brought in as special guests. I mean, I had the pleasure of playing in Alan Hammock's game. He was running Ghost Tower of the Inverness, and just the experience to have the man or woman, who wrote the adventure, and an iconic adventure at that, and to be able to sit in their game as they're running it is a convention experience that is well worth the price of a badge, and the whole experience of that. So, conventions should open their doors to these founders and legends, to steal the name, because I think that's where the name really should come from, and all of those individuals should be welcome.
Well, Yeah, and to have the arrogance to try to rewrite history or try to erase people from gaming history
Mhm.
and exclude people from founders and legends,
Yeah.
even though they were a part of the process. To have the arrogance to do that, um, that really
Yeah,
that
it rubs you the wrong way.
that's
I get it.
that's exactly where I'm at with the creating division in the industry, creating division in the hobby.
Hmm.
Don't use standing to do that. I mean,
Mm.
they either are a part of the history of it or they weren't, but don't try to cancel people.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And
Yeah.
listen, there's plenty of people in the industry today that I don't agree with their personal views and what they project out there on social media and you know, but I respect them all nonetheless. And I bring them in. We brought them in last year. I'm not going to mention which two folks it is, but you had a game designer and somebody who's I'm going to call a contributor because I don't want to give away what they each
Mhm.
do. But one person was producing a product and they had hired another person to do some work on that project, and the other person made a decision after taking the original deposit, we'll call it, got a kind of a view of what the design, what the game producer was all about, and sent back a refund
Mhm.
and basically said, hey, listen, I don't agree with your stances. I don't really want to work with you. So
Yeah.
I'm giving you your money back. And okay, that's a business decision on their part. But I was very clear to both individuals, like, hey, that's all good and well. You make your personal decisions. You're both guests at this convention, so don't let your personal animus bubble over into the convention. Like,
Right.
when the attendees come, when they sit down with you, let's let it, you know, be professional, be friendly, and we don't need to be bringing your personal stuff from outside the convention into the convention. And both guys were very respectful of that direct request and stance.
Right.
So that's where that's at. But I take it kind of personal that there's still an individual out there who still feels the need to try to batter down a 70 plus year old man
Yeah.
unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to happen that way. You know
Yeah.
what? You don't want the person at your convention. Don't uh don't mention them.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, like we had an incident at our convention at Page with a guest.
Hmm.
Okay. It's something that I could very easily put out there and go, this person's not coming this year because they did this and it was terrible and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
um Nothing related to their work at the convention. It was something outside the convention
Hmm.
guidelines. But you know I just went to the person and said, hey, you're not, I'm taking you off the invite list because of this incident, and we'll examine it again in the future. It's not going to be a big deal unless you make it a big deal and you bring it.
Right.
You want to make it a big deal, then then know that when people ask me questions, I'm going to say this is why, and you can make that decision how you want to do it. But I don't need it to be about me or the convention, or you or
Mhm.
anything else.
Right.
Uh, you know, I'm not going to get up on a soapbox and, demean the person.
Right.
It's just move on, and focus on the positives, and don't focus on those negatives, and don't bring the negatives around your convention.
Yeah. It's similar to a table rule, right? So you have two, most people have two basic rules at their
Mhm.
table. It's don't be a jerk and be there to play. And the same thing as far as going to a convention.
Yep.
Don't be a jerk and be there to engage in the experience. Be there to have a positive experience. Leave your negativity and your drama and your personal. It's escapism. Being at a convention is as escapist as playing at a gaming table.
It's
Um,
it's it's supposed to be fun.
yes, it's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be,
If we're not
uh,
having fun, then
yeah,
why are we doing it?
yeah. It's supposed to be
Yeah.
an experience and a positive experience. I don't think anybody goes to a convention being, oh, I hope that I'm pissed off today. I'm gonna roll out of bed and right after breakfast, I'm ready to be pissed off. It's not meant to be that. It's meant to be escapist, and it's meant to be. I'm going to meet a whole bunch of different people, and I'm going to have a great time doing it. And that's what a convention is supposed to be. And we all have something in common, right? We're all there to enjoy the thing that we do have in common. As soon as you leave
That's
the
that's
convention,
that's where we're all in alignment.
yeah,
Let's
yeah,
focus
yeah.
on where we're in alignment instead of what our differences are.
Exactly. You can go back to your differences once you get back on Twitter, and let that eat you up, if you wish to. But at the gaming table, at the convention, everyone should be there to just enjoy what they're there for. And yeah, so I mean, it's a great thing for you to, put out there and say, listen, um, leave the drama at the door and just be here to be a positive entity within the entire environment. And we're all here to game. We're all here to have a good time, and hopefully we're all here to meet new people and experience new games, and to have more variety than what we could get back in our own home experience. That we tend to get settled in ruts, playing with the same group of people, playing the same kind of games, playing whatever. A convention is to be, to broaden your experience.
And to have fun.
Yeah, and to have fun. Yeah.
I can't say it enough. We play the games to have fun.
Hmm. Now, there's people on the internet that will attack you for that. They'll say that's not the purpose of gaming; is to have fun. But that's very, very few that actually think that we're supposed to be learning something from playing games and improving ourselves.
Yeah, it's a shame, but it is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll hopefully conventions like Page, and there are other conventions out there that really strive to do that. Hopefully we'll have a hopefully we'll have hopefully this will be more of the norm than what we've seen over the last few years.
Yes. Yeah. Hopefully, as conventions are starting to crop up and they're starting to grow, and more people are attending, and like I said earlier, the more people that start going to the same conventions and running into the same people, I think that social network is going to grow over time, and that same mentality is going to spread throughout the entire, the region, and it will hopefully become like a big regional family of networked, conventions where we start running across each other at, 2, 3, 4, 5 different conventions, per year, whatever your maximum might be. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I was real happy for you know uh, you know uh, uh, Will or Wes Allen. He ran a little convention in the basement of his church. And I was very happy to see all the people that turned out for that.
Yeah.
You know, it was small, it was fun, it was intimate, and I was glad to be able to support that and help him promote that a little bit on our platforms for
Right.
Page, and that's where those kind of relationships start. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And by the way, Tom Wilson was at page one, and Tom Wilson runs ShireCon in Connecticut. So it was great to see him there. I was like, oh my gosh, you're here. And Joseph Block goes to at least 3 cons that I go to. So Joseph is all over the place at many cons. Excuse me.
Joe's actually on our convention staff. He's in charge of the vendor area, but he also serves as a member of our gamer assistance program committee, and that's for our charitable donations. So he helps us determine, who we should dole out grants to, who may be, in the industry but suffering, financial hardships. So he's a big part of what we do. Tom's a great guy. I'm actually running an event up at ShireCon this year. I'm DMing up there. Tom's a great guy. He came out, and some of the other guys that were with him, like the Ian McGartys and the Levi Combs. They were great, and that's part of the group that I put it out there and said, have a little faith, come down, run some event, place, set up in the vendor's room, and Tom's one of the guys who answered that call, and I'm forever grateful for that.
And plus, this upcoming year, you have Troll Lord Games, which is that's my big thing. I'm like, I just love their game system. Have interviewed Steve Chenault several times now, and just really looking forward to meeting them. And hoping to be in one of their games. So I'm running 3 at Page, but I want to make sure that I have enough room to play in some games as well. So looking forward to meeting those guys.
They're going to be a big part of this year's convention. Steve is a guest this year. At Page, and they're going to be running tons of events. We just haven't, for some of the bigger companies like them, it's a little hard to get them on board with what we're doing because we're so far ahead of it, out ahead on everything. I have to be a little patient and wait for their events, but they've been great so far. Chuck Cumbo has been really on top of everything, and they're going to be a big part of this convention moving forward. They're going to be a cornerstone of that vendor's room and a cornerstone of the events schedule. Moving ahead, and when I talk about cornerstones, man, I can't say enough about Pacesetter Games and Bill Barsh and Ben Barsh and what they did for Page. I've known them for some time, and I said, hey, I'm running this convention. You think you can come out? They're from Michigan, and you know what? It was without hesitation. They're like, yeah, we're there. Bill jumped in and helped the auctioneer at the auction. So yeah, I mean, it's just great to have people that really are on top of it with us, and I'm very grateful for all the support that we get.
Yeah, and I mean, your guest list, like I said, some of the biggest YouTubers out there. I'm tiny compared to them, but you have some really big YouTubers out there, and people that just have such a broad range of the hobby. as far as, like Professor Dungeon Master does old school, new school, indie, Bob Builder, Bob World Builder will be the world. Can't say it right now. Um, you know, um, Ben Milton, has his channel, very large channel, always covering a lot of different OSR, and and they mix in some D&D stuff in there, and but mostly I think mostly old school D&D, some 5e stuff thrown in there as well, and then you have Joe Block, who is, I knew him first, before, just from Greyhawk Grognard, so it's an awesome
Yeah.
channel, and I don't think that there's a person more qualified to do anything related to Greyhawk than he is. I don't think there's anybody even close to understanding that setting, at this day and age.
Somewhere Jay Scott's heart is breaking as you say that, but that's okay.
No, there's no comparison. Hey, you know what? I'm on a rough patch with Jay Scott, but I would welcome him. I would say, I would apologize for any, misstatements I've made about him or whatever. I
didn't realize I was hitting on a
no, it's mostly just a, I'm always friendlier to somebody in person, and it's just, sometimes internet interactions don't carry the same or the correct or the true intentions behind words being said. But I would shake the man's hand, apologize for anything that I might have said that was insulting, and hopefully game with him. So I'm there's other individuals that I've crossed paths with on the internet, and might not be able to reach that kind of a kind of a olive branch kind of thing, but still wouldn't go out of my way to to cause a beef with them in person. But
I got you.
yeah. So let's see. Let's see if we have any other comments in there. So I have a growing channel. Doubt I'll reach the heights, but one can dream. Yeah, you know what? Building channels. I think you're going to have a panel on this, right?
We have a panel on this with.
Yeah. So I consider myself tiny too, and I started my channel about 7 years ago, 2016. But the first year I really don't count because, I had like 36 subscribers, and I might have made 5 videos during that first year. But it's something that you're certainly not going to do it to make money. And when you're looking at people that have 100,000+ subscribers, like Professor Dungeon Master, he's been at it for a long time, and he might have hit it at the right time as well. A lot of it has to do with just timing and then consistency, and that's something I would say on a panel. If I'm sitting on that panel, I would say, talk about what what you love talking about, and kind of find your own little niche and stick to it. Because if you're trying to push an image that is not truly you, it's not going to work, and your viewers are going to pick up on that, and if you're like me, and I'm kind of scattered, I'm kind of scatterbrained and scattered with my tastes and everything, so I kind of throw everything at the channel. I'll cover 10 different game systems in the span of a month or a month and a half or whatever, and eventually get back to them around the bend. But I have a very, very varied taste in what I cover. And so, and that's my thing. Others might be more focused and be more successful, but that's not my thing. And then that's the best thing for you, Flint, is to just find out what you're most comfortable with and then just go forward. Because it's not a dream if you're not following what you truly love doing. All right. So that's my best advice to that comment there.
And whatever you're doing, make sure you're having fun doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's very important. Yeah. If you're not having fun, then why do it?
Yeah. No, exactly. It's why I retired. I was no longer having fun, and I just wasn't having fun for quite some time. And there's a difference between not having fun and then being miserable to wake up and go to work. And once you get to that point, it's time to bail. And it's the same thing with your channel. If you're not having fun doing it, change it up. Find out the way that you are going to have fun doing it, and then just roll with it. But yeah, that's good to hear that you are having fun. So that's great. Okay, awesome. So let's see if I had any other banner questions. I think you answered everything. I was going to ask when they start putting in events, but that won't be until about July-ish. I mean, signing up.
That's when you can start securing tickets if you're a gold badge holder. We'll have like a 2 or 3 week period where gold badge holders get to select their games, and then after that, it'll be the weekend badge holders, the game masters, and the vendors can select, and then after that, the 1 day passes can start to select.
Oh, I got about 2 more hours before my next prednisone, so it's like,
I
can't wait.
Prednisone. That's normally what my cats go on when they don't feel good.
Oh, really?
You're going to the vet? Are you going to the vet?
Yeah. No, that's a nice steroid that does certainly open up your breathing tubes. Take care of every other ache and pain in your body as well. So it is quite the miracle drug. It just takes more than 1 dose to actually start kicking in. So I'm hoping by tomorrow I'll be good, and I'll be ready to do my part-time job where I talk for 45 minutes straight per client. So that was, this was a good test, so I've done about an hour and a half, and I've probably had about 3 coughing fits. So I'm kind of getting ready for tomorrow.
I'm looking at your shelf there, and I spy a original collector's edition white box set, Dragon magazine CD. I see plenty of TSR box sets stacked in that middle cubby.
Virtually all of them. What I did was I ended up, so I got married in 2000.
What'd you do that for?
It was the best choice at the time, and to be honest, I don't regret it. So, but we had like a yard sale because we were consolidating and moving into a smaller apartment, and I was moving from my place to that place, and I had all this, I had all these things from. Now I never had white box, so it wasn't like I sold off my white box for $15 or whatever, but I virtually sold everything, and I had this really nice collector's set of like anniversary set of the Lord of the Rings, and these were like these large artsy books and everything like that. But I got rid of all of my stuff, and so then around 2015. I started getting back into the tabletop role-playing hobby, and I was like, you know what? I just want to start buying everything again. And luckily, I got a lot of the stuff before it really popped on eBay. So all of my first edition, AD&D first edition stuff, I got for between $60 and $80 per book.
Oh,
Um,
that's not
well, it wasn't too bad. I got the most expensive book I got was the original Deities and Demigods. You know, the 144 for $120, which was cheap.
That's
It
a good
was a steal.
price. Yeah.
That was a really good price at the time. And then I got the white box for like $5.50. You know,
Oh, wow.
so even that was a decent price at the time. And then all the supplements were probably about $40 to $60 a piece, which were kind of cheap as well. So those are my most expensive things. Each of the box sets, like the TRS box sets, TSR box sets, I got for about $40 a pop.
Oh, that's good.
You know, yeah. The BECME, I only got the first box set, and then everything else, I was like, you know what? I don't have room for all these box sets, so I just got the booklets, and they were a lot cheaper buying them just the booklets. You know, probably
Yeah.
about $20 a pop. Buying those at the time. I don't know what they are now, but overall, I replaced everything that I used to play back in the day, including a truly horrible game, Pirates and Plunder, which was from Quintos game designer. You know, that was the publishing company, and it was a horrible pirate game. But I had it when I was a kid, so I just wanted to get it again. You know, so I actually picked up that was like $15 for a complete box set. I was like, yeah, nobody liked this game. The game sucked, but it was nostalgic, so I grabbed it. But yeah, I have a nice collection. I will put it that way. I have, and then I have a lot of newer stuff too.
Yeah, I'm obviously a pretty big collector. You know, I don't know if you're gonna see a lot of that with, you know, there's bookshelves in the way, but the you know, your Conan poster there.
Oh,
you know, my wife was very thoughtful and got me a like a collector's book with details, you know, about the Conan movies in it. And I haven't opened the shrink wrap on it yet.
Yeah.
But I believe that's on the cover.
Yeah. Those are actually disc plates that they're done on metal. Yeah, those were, you send them in the image and then they'll print it out on a metal plate. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
well,
this is the book that I haven't opened it yet. I'm going to eventually open it, but it's that same kind of iconic Conan movie poster imagery that you have there on that plate behind you.
I might have to find that someplace.
Well, I don't know where my wife got it, but she was very thoughtful in getting it for me. You know, and she, you know, it's funny, we kid around about wives, right? But she's been super supportive of Paige. I mean, she came out, she worked her butt off all weekend, and you know, I don't know if you had a chance to meet her there when you came, but you know, it wouldn't happen without her. If she said to me, "Hey, listen, this is too much. This is, you know, it probably all end tomorrow."
Right.
But you know, it's really great to have that kind of support.
Oh yeah, yeah, without a doubt.
Did I score any points, honey? Did I score any points?
You only get good karma if you say that when I'm not listening.
So yeah, I look forward to meeting her next time. I was only there Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
So like I said, I had to leave early. We had that snowstorm coming through. So
yeah, I'm sure you must have met her because, you know, she was tethered to the registration desk when you came in.
Oh, maybe when I first came in, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll make it a point to say hello.
Yeah, no, she's great. She's great. Very supportive of the hobby in general and of the convention. So
yeah. So I know you said that you're going to be at ShireCon coming up. Any other conventions that you go to?
Yeah, I'm going to be running games at Gamehole Con
Okay.
out in Wisconsin.
Okay.
I was going to try to make it to North Texas RPG Con, but it's not in the cards for this year.
Yeah.
But definitely a Gamehole Con. Have events submitted and approved there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be DMing out there and terrorizing some of the other big collectors at the Gamehole Con auction. I'm sure. So that's what I have on the schedule for this year. I'll be wandering around Historicon a little bit. I'll be there's a kind of a sci-fi convention coming up called Thy Geekdom Con.
Yeah.
At the end of this month, at the same venue we're at. We actually have a like a promotional booth there where we're going to be promoting Page, so I'll be there.
Cool.
But as far as running events, it's just ShireCon and Gamehole Con.
Historicon is a wargaming convention, right? Primarily?
Correct.
And that's in
Correct.
Jersey.
No.
Oh, that's not in Jersey.
Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But you know what? They came out, they ran events in that back corner, that back left-hand corner of the room, the tanks and the plane events that were back there. They ran all weekend, and their games were well attended at Page. So at least I can do is go out and support what they're doing when they run their convention.
Yeah. I have negative flashbacks from childhood of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. My mother used to drag us out there for the Amish country all the time, and it was like, all right, we've seen it. We've seen this like 10 years in a row. There's nothing else to see. But yeah, I might make my way out because that's not that far from me. Actually, that's within my 3 hour. 3 hour.
Well,
time.
let me know if you plan on going, and we'll meet up out there.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Sure.
I'll see what it is, and and definitely consider going there because I haven't gone to a wargaming convention yet. Not that I'm much of a war gamer, but I wouldn't mind checking it out and seeing. I don't need to open myself up for a new hobby. It's like especially wargaming is very expensive.
If this helps you make your decision, they have a tremendous flea market there.
I am.
And there's role playing, it's all aspects of gaming in the flea market.
Cool.
So like I said, if you want to meet up out there, let me know. And
yeah, I'll definitely check it out. That's somewhat of a day trip. I think it's somewhat of a day trip. So I might.
Where are you out of?
I'm in like mid-Hudson Valley of New York. So Pennsylvania, Lancaster might be 3.5 hours.
I think you're looking at 3.5 hours to get down there. Yeah.
Yeah. My mother used to live in Berwick, which is near Hazleton, which is a slightly bigger town. So yeah, the Amish, Lancaster's not that far from there. So I know it's kind of ballparkish. 3.5 is probably it.
I have the same feeling about Gettysburg that you had about Lancaster as a kid. Like eighth grade Ron got in trouble because they always want to do those field trips in like June at the end of the school year.
Right.
And we're out there and it's 90 degrees and the sun's beating down on you, and we're gonna go walk Pickett's charge.
Yeah.
And me going, hey, this was pretty dumb when Pickett did it, and it's even dumber today that we're doing it. And I got in trouble. But
now when I went to Gettysburg,
my statement stands true. It was dumb when Pickett did it for sure. So,
yeah. I did Gettysburg as a kid too. I did Philadelphia for the first time, and I think it was in 7th grade when I did Philadelphia. So that would have been like, I guess 78-ish, somewhere around there. I came home with the Liberty Bell, all of those things. I remember they had in Philadelphia, the New York Experience was the big annex thing that they had going on. There was almost like a
Mhm.
planetarium, if you remember
Yeah.
planetariums when when we were kids, they had planetariums. I don't think they virtually have those anymore. Um, or they're only the big ones are left. Small planetariums are all gone.
I think that was at the Frank. I think the New York Experience was at the Franklin Institute, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, we're going back to like what was seventh grade? That was like 70, 78 or 79
Yeah,
ish or something.
yeah,
It's going
we're
back.
about the same age. I remember. Yeah, I remember that, and
Yeah,
some of my earliest memories as a kid of doing things with my entire family is I remember being in Philadelphia on the bicentennial,
yes, yeah,
and my walking around with my family there, and in fact, even my cousins were with us at the time. I remember that very
yeah,
clearly.
yeah, yeah. I was, yeah, in '76. I was, I was 9 years old in
Right.
'76, so I remember it well. Um, but I think our class trip was probably 78 or 79, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Around the time that I started playing D&D, actually. So, I started
Well,
playing around 78, 79-ish. So,
mhm.
all right. So yeah, let's wrap this thing up. I will double check and see. Someone wants to know what you're having for dinner. Like,
I'm having chicken. I'm
yeah,
having chicken. My wife held back as long as she could on the
yeah.
chicken, but
So I will let you go back and finish eating and
yeah,
everything. And so,
I appreciate you having me on. I really
yeah,
do. Thank you very much.
appreciate you being on, and really looking forward. I want to keep on highlighting the conventions that I go to, and
Mhm.
let everybody know about them, spread the word. um you know you can, like, I will send you my address on Facebook and Messenger. So if you do have any posters that you want to send, and just tell me the
Absolutely. Yep.
guidelines, how you want it to be done, like what you need along with it, like pictures and stuff. And I'll certainly do that. And and you're welcome to come on, like especially during the summertime when we're getting even closer, and you open up,
I'd like
you
I'd
open
like
up,
that. Thank
signing
you.
up for games and stuff like that. Maybe the day
Mhm.
before that is. So we'll do another, final push, and
Yeah.
make sure that I'm sure the games will fill up fast. I mean, that's been my experience that you get full tables, and
Yeah.
very, very quickly. And I know the last convention I went to, I was like, you know what? I want to open this up to at least one more seat, because on tabletop, and I'll say this across the board, when it says the number of seats needed or the number of tickets, and I'm always confused whether they mean that the game master needs a seat as well, and so it's like, well, 6 seats but 5 tickets, and I've seen some other
Well,
ones that,
well,
well,
here's what you need to know about that.
yeah,
So there's number of spaces needed.
yes, that's
Spaces means tabletops.
okay,
So that's one. Two, there's a little click box. Is the game master going to participate as well? You might as well put no,
yeah,
because you want to give the convention like the best chance to understand how many players that you want. So if the number 6 says put 6, click you're not playing as well, because
right,
even though you're DMing,
yeah.
you're not playing, so they don't need to hold a ticket for you.
I
And
see.
then
Okay.
your number of spaces is always 1 unless you're running a multi-table event.
Oh, I always put 5 in there. I figure that's the number of
I know.
seats you need
I
around
know.
the
It's
table.
number of ticket. It's number of tickets. Number of spaces equals tables in that system. And
Oh, okay.
listen, I know tabletop events has some flaws, but let me tell you, there's far more good in that system than there is
Oh, yeah.
bad. I mean, yeah, I couldn't I couldn't run the convention without that interface.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's very, and to get back to that earlier question, they do set up for VTTs.
Uh-huh.
I mean, yeah, and they set up for those kind of virtual rooms where you can uh, organize and coordinate, the virtual tabletops and that kind of
Right.
thing for virtual conventions. But it must be a totally different interface, and a much more complex interface. But anyway, all right. Well, thanks a lot, Ron. It was great meeting you, in this capacity, and I look forward to meeting you. I'll see you at ShireCon before
Yeah.
H2, so it'll be good to see you at ShireCon. And I'll try to jump in on your game. What game are you running there?
Running a second edition AD&D game called the Village of Floral Hill.
Okay, so I'll be on the lookout for it because I'm only running 2 games while I'm there, and then I try to leave it open for for some playing time myself. So
Great.
I'll see you then. All right, you have a good one.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem, and everyone that has been watching, or Flint, thanks for all your comments, and everyone have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you around on the gaming table sometime soon. Take care.
Thanks.